How are you today?
Good, Tiffany, and yourself?
Doing well, thank you. Thanks for taking the time to meet with us today.
Well, thank
As
you
you
for
know,
having
I'm
me.
Tiffany with the Bonita Chamber. We are the Southwest Florida Alliance of Chambers, and we represent 8 chambers of commerce in Lee and Collier County, and we represent 6,000 businesses and about 300,000 constituents and residents.
I'm getting a lot of feedback.
Yes. There we go. So before we get started, we'll go ahead and introduce ourselves. And just so you know, this is being recorded and we're going to be posting the interviews on our websites and our social media. So again, thanks for being here today. So Donna, then John, then Chris, we're having some audio issues. So go ahead, Donna.
Hi, Nick. Donna Germain, Chamber of Commerce of Cape Coral.
Good morning, Donna. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Morning, Nick. My name is John Lai. I'm the president and CEO of the San Miguel Captiva Chamber of Commerce. Thanks for joining us today.
Good morning, and thank you for having me.
And we have Chris Lopez on the phone. He is the chair of the Southwest Florida Chamber, and he's also been a fantastic consultant to the Southwest Florida Alliance of Chambers. So Nick, can you start off and just tell us a little bit about yourself?
Okay. Well, as you know, Nick Batos, I'm running for the Lee County Board of County Commissioners, District 3. Just to give you a little bit about myself, I'm married, same wife of 54 years. We have 2 children, 4 grandchildren. I spent my career in the hospitality industry. For many years, I was in New York City, and I was responsible for running the food and beverage operations for 6 hotels in New York City owned by Harry and Leona Helmsley. I did that for many years, and then after that, because of that, obviously I'm very familiar with tourism, also with running a large-scale business and managing many, many people. After I left the hotel industry, I went into the private club industry and managed 2 private clubs in the New York City area, one of which was the only private club left in New York City with a golf course. In the late 1990s, I started looking for a place that my wife and I wanted to retire to. And finally in 99, we found a piece of property here in Estero, and we bought the property and built a house, moved in 2000, but just spent the winters here for 2000 up to 2002. 2002, I retired, came down here, and have been living here full-time ever since. After a few years, I found that golf was not going to be enough for me. So I got involved in the quality of life issues here in our community. I formed something called the Brooks Concerned Citizens, which got involved in the quality of life issues in Lee County. I eventually merged that into the Estero Council of Community Leaders, which in 2012, I became chairman of. During that period of time, an incorporation issue came up. As many of you will probably remember, we felt there was a threat from our south neighbor of taking over property which was in Estero. So I led the effort to incorporate the village of Estero. We were able to, within the first 6 months, bring a bill to our legislative delegation, and we had 10,000 signatures that we brought with it. They carried the bill to the legislature, it passed, and in 2014, we had an election. It passed by over 85%, and in 2015, we had our first council meeting. I was honored to be selected as the first mayor, and I did that for 2 years, and we rotated in Estero. But I'm still on council, and I've been on there now for 5 years. I've also been the liaison for the Lee Health hospital system, which I've been involved with way before the incorporation effort. I've been working with them for 10 years, trying to get a facility here in South Lee County, which finally came to fruition a few years ago, and is now, one of our outstanding points of interest that we have. I also was the liaison for, I also am the liaison for the Lee County School District. That came about because I really felt for many years now that education is an important part of our community and what we have to offer, and it should be the best possible thing. And I formed a memorandum of understanding between the village and the school district. It's called the Estero Educational Initiative. And we have worked to augment what the schools in Estero have been offering their students. We don't take over any of the responsibility of what the schools have, but we try to add to it. Over the last few years, we have been able to raise private funds, nothing from the city at all, but private partnership with the school district, and we've been able to raise over $100,000 that we put into additional programs and facilities within the 4 schools that we're working with. I've decided to run for this mainly because I love our community and what it has been. But over the last 5 or 6 years, I believe that our community has been our county has been going in the wrong direction on a number of issues. This has never been on my bucket list. It was never something that I had planned on doing. It's just that I saw the direction we were going in, and that there seemed to be nobody else that was willing to step up that also had the same ideas that I did. So I decided to run. Some of the reasons that I feel that we have to look at and change the direction in is growth management, impact fees, clean water, the environment, and very importantly is responsive government, being responsive to the people of the community. Those are just a few of my things, and I guess you know a little bit about me now.
Thank you. What makes you qualified to represent the business community?
Well, I mean, I have always been in business all my life. I mean, it's something that I did that all my life. In the hotels, I had probably 700 or 800 people working with me in the 6 hotels. So that was considered a relatively large business. I've always, when I was working with when I was managing the private clubs, that was really small businesses. So I have a diversity of background from both types. Ever since we've been a village, I've known and seen the importance of having a vibrant business community within our own community. It's a balancing between the residents and the businesses, and I think you need both to have a successful community.
In your opinion, what's the most pressing issue facing the Southwest Florida business community? And if elected, what would you do to address this issue?
Well, I think right now with COVID-19, it's getting back into operation. I mean, there's no doubt that right now our businesses are hurting. What we have done in the village of Estero, which other people have done also, we've tried to make it easier for businesses right now to get back on their feet, whether it be expanding for restaurants, the ability to have their outdoor facilities utilized more, and even areas that weren't in their particular footprint. I think we also have a responsibility, and this is something I advocated for in front of the county commission, both about a week ago when they had their last meeting, and 3 or 4 weeks before that when they had their first meeting on the issue. I also said that it was imperative that we not only look at what the needs of the residents are, but of businesses. And I was the one that advocated at the beginning that the $57.5 million out of the $134.5 million that the government was giving us under the CARES Act should be increased, and increased immediately. I was really happy to see that a week ago they decided to allocate the county commissioners gave the staff permission to allocate all of that money, because I think it was silly to hold on to more than half of it for later on when businesses are hurting now. I also think looking at what they're doing right now and having a cap for small businesses of $5,000, it seems to, at this point anyway, that money is not the total money they've allocated has not been used. It may be, but I think if they have the opportunity, they should increase the $5,000. I think that it's our responsibility as a government to do what we can and to work with organizations that help businesses. I mean, Tiffany, I guess you maybe particularly know this, but we have a Chamber of Commerce too. It was not as developed as yours is, but it's been something that they've been developing, and we've been working with them to help them develop and get stronger, because we realize that a strong chamber is important for businesses, and that's another way that government can help them.
Thank you. Southwest Florida economy, as you know, is heavily dependent on leisure and hospitality sectors. So if elected, what would you do to encourage economic diversification in the region?
I think that that's an important factor, and it's a great question because we're so reliant on the tourism at this point that if things happen, like happened a couple of years ago with the blue-green algae and people just didn't come, we have to have other means of supporting ourselves and supporting our economy. There are parts of our community which are doing fairly well with businesses coming in there, and they're very desirable to have businesses. The area is very desirable for businesses. But there are other parts of the community, like Lehigh Acres and other parts, which are not as desirable for people. And I think it's important for us to get small businesses and make it incentivize them to go into those kind of areas too, for a number of reasons. Number one, it helps to open businesses from a diversity of ownerships. It also helps the fact that people that live in that area, if we can get businesses in those areas to be closer to where people live, we help our infrastructure problems by not causing as much traffic on the roadways and having people closer to where they work. I think that those type of things, and what we could do as a county, we can incentivize that by maybe creating something like an enterprise zone where either the impact fees are lowered during while people are opening, or whether the real estate taxes are reduced for a period of time. This is something that's done in lots of parts of the countries, not just here.
Thank you. So the Alliance of Chambers was formed after the 2018 water crisis, and water quality was and remains our #1 priority. If elected, what specific projects would you advocate for to improve and protect Southwest Florida's water quality?
Well, I think it's a matter of quality and quantity that involved in that particular question, because we obviously have to protect areas which are prone to flooding, and by holding water in certain areas, it also helps improve the water quality, because it's able to siphon through the aquifers at a slower rate. I think the biggest thing that we can do is to try to complete the projects that are already started through the Everglades projects around Lake Okeechobee. This is something that has been on the books for many, many years. Finally, in the last few years, the governor and our president have finally helped get funding to get these projects well underway. I'm very proud to tell you, and you're probably one of the first ones I'll be mentioning this to, that I've been endorsed by the Everglades Trust, who have been working so diligently for years on water quality and water quantity to get the Everglades into a healthier state, and to help prevent, by getting the water to flow south, we're going to limit the amount of water that has to flow to the east and west. A lot of our problems have been that water has been coming down from Lake Okeechobee full of nutrients, and has then, once it mixes with the red tide, or coming down just as algae blooms, like we're seeing up in the lake right now. There's a major bloom that's been in effect up there for a few weeks now, and it's now covering more than half of the lake. So we have to be able to control the water we get. We do need water from there, because during the dry season, we don't want the estuaries to have a lack of fresh water, so that we have saltwater intrusion. But we can have a balance of that, and that means we have to get a lot of the water to flow south.
And what specific actions do you think lawmakers should take to improve and protect Southwest Florida's waterways?
Well, I think that there's a combination there. I mean, I think the things I mentioned as far as the quality of water is one thing, but I think it's imperative that we extend the laws or the rules that we have on the waterways. We are allowing in certain areas boats to travel at too high of speeds. It's affecting the grasses that are growing in there, which help to purify the water as it comes down. We've all read about the manatees that have been affected in there. And I think that one of the sort of odd effects of the COVID-19 that where people stayed in, and I'm not advocating that people stay in, but the side effect of that for a 3 or 4 month period has been that the people who are fishing are finding that the waters this year are better than they've been in a number of years and are a lot clearer. So I think that the enforcement of our rules is really important. I think we have to extend that so that people are safe on them, but can enjoy them.
Thank you. And one last question, is there anything else you would like us to know about you or your priorities?
Well, I guess the priorities that I mentioned to you earlier, whether it be growth management or impact fees, and I don't want to take up a lot of your time on this, but one of the things that I think, just to clarify, I have been quoted many times that I am for a full 100% impact fees, and I am. It's not that I am against growth. I am for growth, but growth has to be controlled, and we have to have growth that is in tune or in balance with our infrastructure. Part of the problem that's happening recently is that our infrastructure is falling behind our growth rate, whether it be roads or schools. As we all know, our schools are all over 100% of capacity. Our roads, outside of this period of time when nobody was on the road, but just prior to it in January and February, the roads had again become very crowded. So I think that we have to have a balance. I think having impact fees just tells everybody that the new people coming in, the new development coming in, will pay for the infrastructure that they're causing to happen, the same way that all of us paid for it when we came in and either built a business or bought a home. The last thing I'd just like to go over with you is that I feel that I'm the most qualified for this position for District 3 because I'm the only person that's running for District 3 seat that can say that I have advocated for my positions. And I'm not just saying them now, but I've advocated for those positions for 15 years. I also am the only person that can say that I've had 5 years of being an elected official and have voted for those positions over that 5-year period. I feel that our county is at a crucial point, and that we as a community, I believe, do not want to become another East Coast. We want to grow, but we want to grow at a sustainable rate.
Well, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us today. Again, these will be posted on our websites and our social media, and we wish you luck in the election.
Well, I thank you very much for having me, and good luck to all of you, and all of you stay safe.
Have a good day.
Thanks, Nick.
Bye.